The more responsibility you take on, the more control you gain in your life. The more control you have, the greater the freedom you experience. You're about to listen to a speech that can change your life from Brian Tracy. Sit back, relax, take notes, and make sure you watch this video all the way through so you don't miss anything that could have a massive impact on your life.
Negative emotions are a part of every person's life. We often say, this is responsible or that is irresponsible. And in reality, everyone falls somewhere on a spectrum between these two extremes. On one end, you have those who see everyone else as responsible for their circumstances. They are irresponsible. On the other end, you have people who take full responsibility for their lives. These are the leaders. You can be a leader without a following, without a team. Leadership is about how you behave, and true leaders are those who take total responsibility. The more responsibility you accept, the more control you feel you have over your life. Not just physical or financial control, but emotional control as well. You start to feel like you are in charge. And the more control you have, the more freedom you experience. If you were to ask people why they want to start their own business, why they want wealth, and if you kept asking, the final answer you would get is always about freedom. We all desire freedom. It's something everyone craves, and no one ever says, I have too much freedom, please take some away from me. There are politicians who think that the public has too much freedom and that it's their duty to reduce it through taxes and regulations. But there's never a person who voluntarily asks to have their freedom reduced. They don't say, please take my income away through taxes, or please regulate my behavior because you think it's better for me. When you put it like that, no one would ever agree to it. Yet this is one of the great dilemmas of our time. So, the more responsibility you take on, the more control you have, the greater the freedom you enjoy, and the more freedom you have, the more positive emotions you experience. There's a direct link between responsibility, control, freedom, and positive emotions. At the opposite end of the spectrum, irresponsibility leads to a lack of control. When you feel out of control, you lack freedom. You feel like others are controlling you, and this leads to negative emotions. I've spent over 4,000 hours and many years of my youth studying the concept of negative emotions. This is some of the most important work ever done because the only thing standing between you and a fantastic life are negative emotions. Fear and other negative emotions. If you could eliminate negative emotions, your mind would automatically fill with positive emotions, love, happiness, joy, and exhilaration. The great challenge of life is to eliminate negative emotions because doing so unlocks the power of your subconscious and superconscious minds. So how do we go about eliminating negative emotions? I figured out a way that works like a charm. I call it the negative emotion tree. This is my creation. Imagine a tree with roots, a trunk, and branches that bear fruit. The fruits of the negative emotion tree are anger, fear, doubt, jealousy, envy, the green-eyed monster. Envy, in fact, is the driving force behind much of modern politics. Those who have less envy, those who have more, and vote for people who promise to take it away from them. And then there's resentment, envy's twin sister. These emotions, along with many others like self-doubt, fear, and about 54 other negative emotions, are the fruits on this tree. So how do you get rid of these negative emotions? You start by starving the roots. If you starve the roots, the tree will wither and die. Two key factors create and sustain negative emotions: justification and identification. Justification is when you feel justified in your negative emotions. You say to yourself, I'm entitled to this negative emotion because of what this person did or said to me. We walk around with an ongoing internal conversation, justifying why we're entitled to feel angry, upset, or negative. The other factor is identification, taking things personally. If we don't take things personally, we can't attach any negativity to them. For instance, if someone robbed a store in Bangladesh 2 weeks ago, we wouldn't feel any negative emotions because we don't take it personally. We might look at natural disasters like earthquakes or tsunamis and feel sympathy, but we don't experience negative emotions because they don't affect us personally. If you stop justifying and identifying with negative emotions, they begin to wither and die. Now, how do we starve the fruits of the negative emotion tree? We do this by becoming non-judgmental. If you can train yourself to be non-judgmental, you simply refuse to judge others. In the Bible, which offers a lot of guidance on peace of mind, it says, "Judge not, that you be not judged, for with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. In other words, if you judge others, they will judge you. So don't judge. When you hear something, don't get upset or angry, just don't judge. Say, let's get all the facts first. I've worked with great leaders who faced tremendous crises, and in every case, they remained calm and passive. They didn't judge, they asked questions. I wrote a book on this originally titled Crunch Time, but later renamed Crunch Point. It teaches people to stop the clock, stay calm, get the facts, and avoid judging. They don't get angry, upset, or worked up. They remain calm. The measure of your success as a person is how calm you can stay when there's turbulence in the world around you rather than getting caught up in it immediately. The second factor is disidentifying. Don't take things personally. We practice detachment. The entire Buddhist religion, which affects about 600 million people worldwide, is based on detachment, non-attachment. It's only when we become attached to an outcome, money, a relationship, or a job that we experience unhappiness, anger, resentment, or negativity. That's why it's crucial to step back and detach emotionally so you don't get upset. You say to yourself, things just happen. It's like the old saying, stuff happens. If you can adopt this mindset, you remain calm. Now here's an interesting point. Calmness leads to peace of mind. Calmness is also linked to self-esteem, self-confidence, effectiveness, and creativity. When you become emotionally involved in anything, your higher mental faculties shut down and you revert to the fight or flight response governed by your limbic system, fear, anger, and so on. As long as you're emotionally involved, you can't think clearly. Francis Bacon once said, "Passion maketh a man who can in no way be true to his own ends." In other words, we get so excited that we can't think straight. The key is to stay calm. That's why they say, take a deep breath, count to 10, stay calm, detach, get the facts, and don't get upset or involved. This is how we starve negative emotions. You'll find that people who have no negative emotions are much calmer and more positive than others. However, there's an even better way to eliminate negative emotions, and that's by cutting down the trunk of the tree. The trunk is blame. Blame is at the root of 99% of negative emotions. Imagine the trunk is blame. If you cut down the trunk, it's as if the negative emotions were lights on a Christmas tree. When you unplug the Christmas tree, what happens to all the lights simultaneously? They all go out. When you stop blaming, all your negative emotions stop. And as long as you don't blame, your negative emotions stay gone. Without blame, your mind fills with positive emotions. So, how do we stop blaming? This concept is so simple, yet it's life-changing. I still use it every day because life is full of difficult people, reversals, and unexpected setbacks. The question isn't what happens. You can't change that. The question is how you respond. You have the ability to choose your response. Nothing and no one makes you angry. There is no inherent anger or negativity in any situation, no more than in a rock. All the emotion in a situation is the emotion you bring to it by the way you interpret it, the way you justify or identify with it, or the way you blame. So eliminate blame and negative emotions by using the law of substitution. Replace the blame thought with the affirmation, I am responsible. Now this may seem simple, but it's incredibly powerful. I still think about it and use it every day. It's impossible to blame and accept responsibility at the same time. One cancels out the other. It's also impossible to be negative and accept responsibility simultaneously. When you accept responsibility, you can't help but feel empowered. So say these words, I am responsible. Now, think of any negative experience in your life that still causes you anger, upset, or unhappiness. Just say instead, I am responsible. Think to yourself, I am responsible, I am responsible. What I've learned, which had such a profound impact on my mind, is that we often rationalize by telling ourselves rational lies. We think of all the reasons why we're entitled to our negative emotions. But instead of using our minds against ourselves, by committing emotional self-harm, we can use our minds to eliminate negative emotions. When you think of any negative experience in your life, simply say, wait a minute, I am responsible, I am responsible. Then ask yourself, in what way am I responsible? How am I responsible? If you're dealing with a negative situation that's been bothering you for a long time, the first time you try this, it might be difficult because you've grown attached to your negativity. You might not want to let it go. But play with this idea. Let's say you had a terrible relationship and the person treated you badly. It ended in a painful divorce and emotional stress. Now, you might say, wait a minute, I'm responsible. I am responsible. How could I be responsible? Well, you got yourself into the situation. You married the person. Even when it was clear it wasn't going to work out, you stayed in the situation. In fact, even before you got married, you knew it wasn't a good idea. But you went through with it anyway because your mother expected you to, or because you had already sent out the invitations. You could have backed out. 38% of people who get married say that if it weren't for all the people attending, they would have changed their minds. I once had an interesting experience while taking a taxi to the airport. I told the taxi driver where I was going, and he said, "It's nice to pick up someone who knows where they're going." I asked him why he said that, and he told me a story about a woman he picked up the night before. He had been called to pick up a passenger from a house with a party going on. The passenger came out with her suitcases, threw them in the car, and said, "Take me to the airport." As they drove off, the driver asked her where she was headed, and she replied, "The first plane out, I don't care where." She then explained that the party they had passed was her wedding reception. She had just gotten married that afternoon and realized she had made a huge mistake, so she decided to leave before it went any further. That's an extreme example, but it illustrates the point. If you had a bad business deal, who got you into it? Did you make the decision yourself? Did you make the choice despite having doubts? Did you fail to gather enough information? Use your brilliant mind to think of all the reasons why you are responsible. As you do this, the negativity starts to fall away. You stop being negative about the other person and start taking responsibility for your decisions. You might even laugh at yourself thinking, that was a dumb decision. I was really stupid to do that. If only I had done more research or listened to my intuition. Now you're using your mind to keep yourself calm, positive, and clear-headed. Keep telling yourself, I am responsible, I am responsible. As you do this, you unplug the negative emotion tree and all your negative emotions stop. If you're having trouble sleeping, keep saying to yourself, I am responsible, I am responsible. If you're driving and thinking about something that makes you mad, just keep repeating, I am responsible, and find reasons why you are. As you focus on this, because your mind can only think of one thing at a time, your negative emotions will eventually stop. They'll stop completely and won't come back. If you apply this to a specific negative situation in your life that still makes you angry when you think about it, you can cancel it within a few days. Each time that memory pops up, you cancel it by saying, wait a minute, I am responsible. Within a few days, it will stop popping up and will eventually fade away. You'll realize that you haven't thought about that situation in 2 or 3 weeks. When it does pop up again, just slap it down like a game of whack-a-mole. Say, wait a minute, I am responsible, and it will stop again. Soon, it will be gone forever. A situation that once kept you up at night, tossing and turning, will be gone forever. It will be like a fire that dies away and goes stone cold. No matter how much fuel you put on it, no matter how much you think about it, there's no emotion left. You can think about it in complete calmness. You can even meet the person involved in that situation, and there will be no emotion. You've detached from the negative emotions, and there's no emotional attachment left. This is the key. When you unlock the negative emotions, your whole life begins to change dramatically. We say that responsibility versus blame is crucial. This is a question we've been asked many times. People say, when you accept responsibility, isn't that the same as accepting blame? No. Blame always looks backward, toward the past, at what can't be changed. What he said, what she said, what he did, what she did. Responsibility, on the other hand, always looks to the future. It asks, what can we do from here? Where do we go from here? Remember, your conscious mind can only hold one thought at a time. If you're thinking about the future and where you're going, you can't think about the past and what made you unhappy. Thinking about the future makes you happy, gives you a sense of power, freedom, and control, and forces you to focus on what you want. There's a wonderful line from Helen Keller. When you turn toward the sunshine, the shadows fall behind you. When you think about what you want and where you're going, all the negative things fall behind you. You stop thinking about negative things. If you do something habitually, repeatedly over and over again, you develop a habit. Eventually, you develop the habit of looking on the bright side. This isn't about being Pollyannish or pretending there are no problems in life. It's about realizing that you're only effective at responding to problems when you're calm, clear, and relaxed. You can't take care of problems if you're upset, angry, or frustrated and lashing out at others. When you say, I am responsible, it's like Jesus calming the waters. When you say, I am responsible, your emotions calm down and you can deal effectively with whatever you need to handle without blaming anyone else. Now, here's an interesting observation. People love their suffering. This is something you'll encounter. People fall in love with their suffering and it becomes a habit. How can you tell? Because they love to talk about their suffering. You meet them 1 year apart, 2 years apart, 3 years apart, and they're always talking about their bad back, their lousy spouse, their crummy kids, their boss, the economy, and so on. They're like Joe Betefsblock from the Lil Abner comic strip, walking around with a storm cloud over their head wherever they go. People drop dead, cars crash, and disasters happen around them. Some people are like that. I once had a woman working for us who was so negative. She had gone through a divorce, and after talking to her for a while, you could understand why her husband left her. She was so negative, critical, and angry that she seemed to radiate negativity. She would walk near our photocopier and it would seize up. It was a brand new photocopier, but it would stop working whenever she was nearby. She bought a new car, and as she drove away from the dealership, it spontaneously combusted and burned to the ground. The car simply self-destructed, and they did a forensic analysis of the vehicle. There was nothing wrong with the car. It was a brand new car, the kind that never has such issues, but her negativity was so powerful that it destroyed the car. Her negative attitude paralyzed our photocopier, and it burned her car to ashes. All she could think about was her suffering and how badly she'd been treated by her ex-husband. So, when you meet people who are in love with their suffering and love to talk about their suffering, Emerson said, give them a good shake and put them back in touch with their real selves. My wife Barbara and I used to call this the advice. Barbara once wanted to be a counselor, but she realized that counseling involves dealing with people's suffering all the time. You spend your day listening to their suffering, and you come home feeling drained. You want to pull the blankets over your head. So she decided not to pursue counseling as a career. Instead, she became a very quick and efficient emotional counselor. She would give the advice, and it went like this. If someone pours out their problems to you, listen and then respond with, you are responsible for your own life. What are you going to do about it? Whenever anyone presents you with a problem, smile and say, yes, that's true, but you're responsible for your own life. What are you going to do about it? Keep reminding them, you are responsible for your own life. I'm responsible for my own life. If I'm not happy, it's up to me to change it. Tell others, you're responsible for your own life. What are you going to do about it? Don't dwell on their complaints and don't listen to endless justifications. When you reward people by encouraging them to talk about their problems, that's all they talk about. They'll keep coming back to you, calling you late at night, visiting you on weekends. You become their emotional first aid station. Instead, don't encourage them. Say, that's really unfortunate, but you are responsible for your own life. What are you going to do about it? They might try to explain with a yes, but stay firm. Remind them, you are responsible for your own life. What are you going to do about it? Two things will happen. Either they'll realize that complaining isn't getting them anywhere, or they'll stop coming to you with their problems because they'll see you as unsympathetic or not compassionate enough to listen to their tales of woe. See, here's the truth. One negative emotion that you refuse to let go of will keep you spinning your wheels and going in circles for the rest of your life. This is one of the great breakthroughs I learned. Everyone agrees with the idea of taking responsibility, but everyone also has that one exception, except for that one person who did them wrong, except for that one situation. They hold on to that one exception like a grudge, refusing to let go. They say, I'm not going to let go of this one. I've invested too much anger in this to let it go. Psychologists have found that this is like driving a brand new Mercedes-Benz with one brake locked in place. Imagine you bought a beautiful new car, but due to a factory error, one of the brakes was installed backward, causing one of the front wheels to be locked in place. When you start the car and step on the gas, the car will start to move, but it will go in circles because that wheel won't turn. This is what happens to people who hold on to one unresolved negative emotion. They go in circles, never getting ahead, never being truly happy, never achieving their full potential. The purpose of psychotherapy is to help people identify and let go of that break, which may go back to childhood, a relationship, an embarrassment, or a shameful experience. If you have one break locked in place, your life will go in circles forever. But here's the good news. If you have the courage to let go of that one thing, to accept responsibility, and to emotionally walk away from it, you'll be set free. In a short period of time, that situation will be like a bag of garbage you left by the side of the road. It will be gone forever, and your life will be transformed. When you release that brake, your life, like a great Mercedes-Benz, will move at incredible speeds toward extraordinary destinations. It's hard to do. It takes courage, character, and fortitude. But if you start to work on it by saying, I am responsible, you can release your brakes and fly.
Thank you for watching this insightful session with Brian Tracy. If you found this seminar helpful, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more life-changing content. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue this journey of personal growth together. Remember, taking responsibility is the first step toward the freedom you seek. See you in the next video.